What's going on there, Twitch and YouTube world, and welcome to the one and only Holosites TV. And today, I am going to bring to you a beginner guide of sorts that has been in popular demand with folks on Reddit, with folks new to the Discord, and just players that I've been bumping to on a regular basis. I'm not going to be going over any of my specific loadouts. I will be making a new video next week detailing what loadouts are going to help you win games. Now, I did drop one about a week and a half ago. However, there was still a lot of testing that needed to be completed. I always try and do a quick post patch update of some sort, and I want to give you guys something that's a little bit more refined, a little bit just leveled out that will set you up for success. The first thing I want everybody to get used to when it comes to a game like Off the Grid is movement tech and limbs. That is what is going to separate this game from being like any other battle royale that you've played before. So we're going to dive in. You're going to take a look at some of the more popular limbs, how to use them, what they're for, and how to really get some value out of them whenever you're playing the game. So we're going to jump into the practice zone real quick and just kind of see, the different areas that we can show you mechanics of the game. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is just dive in with one of my favorite loadouts. It's a Kestrel Tacoma combo. Again, I'm not going to be going over the builds, but I figured I'd just tell you what I like to use on a regular basis. Now, I think Roadrunners are probably the cream of the crop, so we will start with going over those limbs first, and we'll talk a little bit about Hookshot as well as the Recon drone, because those are going to be pretty much a staple in the meta. So one thing that's really important to consider is that aim assist is really, really, really strong, and the majority of the PC plays or players that consist of the player base know how to aim. So what that means is when you're activating things like your Roadrunners, you really need to focus on zigzagging, sliding, and mixing up the movement as often as possible. Another really important tip here is alternating the Roadrunner spam. Now, I could run around the map and do this. And if you pay attention, the slide maneuver will actually cancel the Roadrunner usage. And this is going to help you be able to travel much longer distances and cut off the trail from behind you when folks are trying to get a chase in. Let me demonstrate that one more time. Activate the Roadrunners, slide. Activate the Roadrunners, slide. Activate the Roadrunners, slide. And continue to rinse and repeat this behavior whenever you're trying to make just navigating around the map easier. Remember that you can use your slide maneuver whenever things are vertical as well. That's going to help you fly down those hills with as much momentum as possible. And later on, I'll do a part 2 to this video where we have more in-game footage. I've been collecting it slowly, and I think it will help bring a little bit more of this stuff to life. And that, for the most part, is going to cover Roadrunners. Let me take a look at some of my builds real quick and see if we got some leapers for you. So, hopping in, we got leapers right here. So, leapers are probably the second most important limb for you to get used to and master. And one thing I will say is that leapers is going to kind of be more of a get out of jail free card or help you get to different heights that you were unable to get to before. Let's say, for example, you got somebody that's up here at the top and you hear them or you see them and you need to be able to get up to them. Leaping over their head like this is going to help create an advantage for you. Now, let's say, for example, that is my target right here, that specific training dummy, right? And I'm trying to make a play. I could leap her over and shoot down at that target. This is the kind of play that is going to help you be more diverse, and you can also stack the leaper charges to help you get higher and higher. But one thing I will say is the new flight in the game is going to kind of reduce the value of leapers and what they can provide. So kind of as an example here, let's say you're in a huge fight, you're trying to get out of something sticky, right? You hop the rope, leap, and you're flying. Now remember, you can't fly forever. You got to get up even higher. Maybe you're falling. You can leap up again to reset that and get yourself a little bit more air time and stay high up as much as possible. Now, if you pay attention, that heat meter is building up, right? A leap does not reset that meter. So you're going to notice I'm still going to get that overheat. And oftentimes you will run out of airtime and fall straight down to the ground. So leapers is really going to be something that's situational. Again, use it to create openings and plays like I demonstrated from here, right? Swoop over your opponent, right? Look back, create angles for yourself. This is where a lot of players like to snipe you in the air or hop off a building, snipe you, and then go in for the charge. You got to get creative as you're mixing some of that stuff up. Now, there are a couple other legs that we can go over. So what we're going to do now is talk about hammerheads. Hammerheads are an interesting leg because they allow you to get airtime similar to leapers, but they also will allow you to do damage to people. So let's say I'm on the bottom. I need to maybe get up somewhere and create position. I can hammer cancel by hitting my space bar, and that immediately is going to get me into flight. Now, maybe I have a target, such as that training dummy that we've been working on. I could leap into the air, aim straight at my target, and crack their shields. And this, of course, will allow you to swap to your next weapon, finish off the target, clean them up. And in many cases, let's say they were on a roof similar to this guy right here, I could hammerhead, boom, and the active player will be thrown backward and be disabled from using their limbs for about 0.25 seconds. If the building isn't super tall or they aren't reactive enough to hit their spacebar, they will fall to their death, getting you a free kill. Everything else about this limb I've already covered basically in the leaper section. We're not going to spend too much time on it. Shout out to the hammerheads. All right. Now, with that being said, ladies and gents, that pretty much covers all of the leg limbs right now. And we're going to go ahead and move forward and talk more about your limbs, right? This is what this game is about. The limbs are everything when it comes to off the grid. So circle it back here to my original loadout. We might have something like the hook shot, which we could use to pull our target off of a high ground. And yes, even though these are trading dummies, if that was an actual player, they would be pulled towards me. And I can combo that with swapping to my weapon, slicing them, or throwing a Phosphor Fury on them afterwards. Again, you got to get creative with how you're using these things. Now, let's say I'm in a fight, I'm in a sticky situation, I'm zipping all around the place, I got to run for my target, right? Using the grapple hook to get yourself to a new location is going to be really, really beneficial. Let's say you're flying around the map and you're noticing that your heat's building up. You got to get over to that other side, right? Use that to help close those gaps and take some time off of the heat being in use. And honestly, that's going to help you understand hookshot more and more. The more you use it, the more you get used to it. And there's a lot, I could go over a lot of different scenarios of where hookshot will be beneficial to you, but it's meant to get you out of trouble. If you're getting shot at somewhere here on the low ground, you're starting to lose this fight, oh shit, get out of jail free card, grapple hook on out of there. So to recap, use it to get you places, use it to get you out of sticky situations, and use it to help you get to different angles whenever you're in flight and you're going to be in a real good situation. Now, for folks who are running things like the road runners, right, I have no way to get up there until I grapple hook. So make sure you're using it to get yourself to higher heights as often as possible. And yes, you can double up on it. I could grapple hook, fly a little bit, grapple hook again, and that's how you can get yourself up onto cranes, up onto sky towers or Trump Tower or wherever it is you're trying to navigate to, right? Get creative, right? Remember, you can combo this with your flight. So maybe I grapple hook here and I'm flying in the air. I'm already as high up as possible, right? I can go upward even further. Now, that's something else we should probably talk about before I get too deep into the limb section. Flight is pretty straightforward. It is going to take you some time to get used to, but what you want to start off with is just how do you control the flight? So if I were to hop off a building and hit my space bar, notice that when I'm flat like this, I'm not using up a lot of heat, right? Trying to keep myself as lateral as possible is what's going to really help you maximize your flight time. Just a very lightweight up and down tap to keep you controlling. Now, it doesn't need to be like you're dropping in on Fortnite or Apex Legends or something where you're like constantly doing this. It's just a nice, you see your guy dipping, correct it, right? Stay as lateral as possible. So to demonstrate that, we'll go up on the high ground, hop off, just like that, right? I don't even have to do anything much. In fact, I could literally hop into the air, hold sideways, right? And you could literally just stay lateral the entire time. And it does kind of make you go upward just a little bit. And that's where that up and down dipping motion is going to help you get more flight control overall. Gonna take some practice, and again, I will have a part 2 that will show you what this looks like in game, but just mixing up those combinations, right, of staying as lateral as possible so you can travel distances, right? And you'll notice that dipping down is going to allow you, right, if I dip down and then go up, dip down and go up, that is going to reset how high you can get. So if you're flying, you go up and suddenly you feel like you're losing steam, go lateral again, and then just a smidge, dip down and go up, and you can continue to climb as high as you want until your jetpack overheats. That's what's going to allow you to really take advantage of positioning and get to some of those high ground locations that are going to create the advantage you're looking for. That about wraps up, in my opinion, the key areas of movement. We gone over limbs, we gone over flight, and we went over the grapple hook, but now we're going to talk about some of the other limbs that are going to be game changing for you. So first, we're going to talk about Recon, because this bad boy is a must have in all triple stacks right now, and you need to be using this within your team. So anytime you see a strange red indicator in the center of your map, you're going to know that you're on Recon. So everybody can see you through the walls, just like I'm able to see all of these red targets through the walls. And it's important to take advantage of that data as frequently as possible because it's going to open up plays for you to take advantage of and thwart the competition. Now, you might be asking yourself, what do I do when I'm on Recon? Well, the first thing I suggest you doing is hopefully running Paralyzer. Paralyzer is going to assist you with getting off of Recon. So the moment you hit Paralyzer, that beeping sound you hear right there, that is not only going to give you the ability to see through walls every time it pulses, just like Recon does, right? It is going to take you off of the Recon drone. And it goes every time. Every time you hear that beeping pulse, it resets itself. Now, the problem with using this specific limb is it does have a very long cooldown. As you can see, it's 30 seconds, and that's with using the limb accelerator. If you're not using this, maybe you have a soldier backpack, for example, you are going to be stuck for 45 seconds without any sort of counter to the recon. My recommendation is you use your paralyzer to either get out of the recon or to push the recon target because now you have information on them. They don't have information on you, and that's going to put the fight in your advantage. Now, remember, if you end up popping that thing just like this and you see 1, 2, 3 targets, that's probably not a good fight for you to take. And that's a situation that you need to go ahead and get yourself out of. Remember what I said earlier, spam that Roadrunner and maximize your maneuverability. That's pretty much it when it comes to our 2 data limbs in the game. Recon, team data, all 3 players get the advantage of seeing the information. Paralyzer is you and you alone. So you're not going to be able to set up any other plays for anybody other than yourself. Just some food for thought whenever you're deciding which data limb do I need to be running. And I will say, at least one of you need to have some sort of data limb. If you're running the paralyzer, you could always ping that target and call out what you're seeing, or you could just run Recon and everybody gets to see what you see. Pretty straightforward, right? Now, other than that, let's talk about a couple other limbs that are going to be pretty much game changers, and this is one of my favorite ones of all time. It is the Slamfist. Now, the thing that makes Slamfist so good is, let's say you're in a fight, you're taking a bunch of damage. Oh shit, I gotta get out. That's how you use it. Just a real quick reactive, whatever you're pressing to activate on your controller or your mouse and keyboard, you can hit that and get yourself out of a really sticky situation with lightning speed reaction time. The other thing it's really good for is just getting you more flight. Let's say you're in the air and your jetpack's about to overheat. You're like, oh no, I gotta get over here to the right. We could use that to help get us a little bit more oomph to the position that we're trying to get to. Another really great thing that you could do is, let's say you're flying really low, and actually I need to let my Slamfist recover. You're flying really low. You're like, oh no, I need to get up here, right? Same thing. We could use that to get ourselves up to a higher position whenever we think we're about to lose some steam or our jetpack is about to overheat. That's what makes this specific limb brilliant for usage, and it is one of my top mobility limbs. If you're not running the grappling hook, you should be running the Slamfist. And I honestly think those are some of the top limbs in the game that we've covered so far that are going to make up a bulk of probably most the top tier player loadouts, right? So to recap, we've talked about Roadrunners. We've talked about Leapers. Talked about Hammerheads, but I'm not going to put that on the list of top tier. Talked about Slamfist, and we've talked about Recon and Paralyzer. You got to make those things your bread and butter, mix those things around, and you're going to notice, even in my specific list, I don't know why I keep hitting that. In my specific list here, almost all of my loadouts are comprised of something similar. Now, these last three aren't actually loadouts of mine, but I grabbed them so I could just quickly demonstrate how to use these limbs and help you maximize the value of using them. So let's talk about the Javelinas. So the Javelinas are a very powerful limb that are going to allow you to hit up to 3 targets for 250 damage apiece. If I were to hold this, you're going to notice that all 3 targets will get marked. And I can use that as an opener. Finish, right? This thing is fantastic. And you got to use it as an opener. There are situations where maybe you've started the fight ahead of time or you're third partying a fight, right? And you could turn around, lock in on those targets, and clean them up. Free kills almost every single time. Look how much damage that first robot took, right? He's almost dead. Just a couple shots to clean him up. And that's with an SMG from 50 feet away. So this limb, top tier limb in terms of a damage limb, and I think it's going to be in a lot of loadouts. Now, one thing you do need to consider is when this is locked onto you, you will be told, if you're on the opposite side of this thing, you need to make sure that you're taking cover. Line of sight is how you avoid getting killed or taking damage from the Javelinas. Now, with the game's current meta, there's a lot of people spending a significant amount of time in the air, and it's going to make it a lot harder for you to dodge these things. Now, the more distance you can travel to get away from the Javelinas, the higher odds you're going to have. Let's say last minute, you're running away, right? Pretend Javelinas are on me right now. I'm running away. If I drop down right before they hit, they're going to slam down on the ground above me, and I'm going to avoid any additional damage. These things do not take sharp right angles. They're not going to be able to come down this hole and smack me for 250 damage. So something to consider is always know where cover is, and you should be doing that just as a good habit anyways when it comes to positioning and helping you get out of something bad. That pretty much wraps up the Javelinas. We're going to talk about buzz killers, which aren't necessarily a top tier limb right now, but what a lot of people don't know is if you spam the button that you use to throw it out, you can send it to wherever you're pointing. So I can send it over here. I can send it back over here, right? And all I'm doing, so I have mine set to E right now. If I spam E, it will fly around. Now, keep in mind, it might get stuck on some things. So you got to pull it out, bring it back to you, and then send it back to its destination. This is a really great third-party tool. It does lots of chip damage. I think towards the end of the game, when maybe, for example, people are sitting on high ground and you are stuck on the low ground, this is a great tool to send up as a distraction, and then you could grapple hook or slam fist to get yourself elevated, and then swoop up and have a little bit more of an advantage in the fight, right? This right now, let's see what it's shooting at. If we look at this target, it's only been about 3 seconds. It's taken off all 3 plates, which means when you do go take what should be an advantage, the person on the high ground, you have turned the odds in your favor, right? That's going to be a real quick, easy cleanup, and you can get the hell out of Dodge. Now, I'm going to be honest, there are some teams out there who like to stack these towards the end of the game, and if you have 6 of these things on your forehead, you are going to be melting folks with the quickness. But again, most players are going to be smart. They're going to shoot that drone down because they don't want none of those problems. And that's why it's not necessarily a top tier limb, because it's very easy to shoot down and eliminate. So some extra food for thought when it comes to how to use these limbs and make the best of them. Now, going back to our loadouts, let's see, what else do we got here? Let's talk about the Kinetic shield. This one's pretty self-explanatory, and I think most of it is going to come from me showing you guys in-game or giving you in-game footage of what this is capable of. So first and foremost, it blocks pretty much everything. Trip mines, phosphors, javelinas, rippers, all of the main damage limbs in the game do get reflected by the shield. However, the best way to counter it is to shoot my feet. You're going to notice that the shield cuts off at the last 6 to 8 inches, which means all you got to do is shoot at somebody's toes and they will drop to the floor. Or, hey, if you have a really good gun like an influencer or maybe a liberator kite that's meant to rip off limbs, literally shoot their legs off, giving them a free kill, because when they fall to the floor, it will deactivate the shield and they're defenseless. There's nothing else that they're going to be able to do about it. Other than that, what I always recommend folks to do is to charge up, take as much damage into the shield as you can, and then right click, which will then shoot back the amount of damage that the shield has absorbed. If I'm not mistaken, the maximum amount of damage that you can push backward towards your opponent is about 350 damage, which, to put that into mathematical standpoint, you only have about 500 to 600 health, depending on how many plates you have in at the time. So it's never going to get you a knock unless you have done some opening damage to your target. So what a lot of players like to do is they'll hold their shield, blast the target, swap to a shotgun, and then beam down the target very quickly. Very quick, boom, swap, boom, and that target's gone and out of the picture. I would recommend something like the Flenser or the Influencer for this specific combination. And I mean, you could try using it with something like the Squall or even your SMG, but you need to fire multiple shots and the time to kill is just way too long. So again, shield damage, shotgun, fantastic combo, and I'll get you some more footage on how to use this limb in live action on part 2. Let's take a look. What else do we got? Phosphor Fury. So Phosphor Fury is one of my all-time favorite limbs, and for a very long time in the early metas, it was probably one of the most broken limbs in the game. To make a long story short, if you are in a heated panic and you're just trying to get some damage out, you could immediately just stick it on somebody. Now you'll notice that it does not kill the target unless there's additional fire damage. And with players using leapers and road runners all over the place, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get the kill. So it's very important that when we do charge this up, that you reach that 100% state, and you know it because your arm will be completely straight and you'll hear that little zzz at the end to let you know it's fully charged. At which point we let go, and now there's no survival for my target whatsoever. There's no in between. There's no 70% or 80%. So it's very important that you're using this wisely, right? A lot of people will be flying in the air, going for the stick, and you get the kill, right? So getting to 100 is relatively easy to do. You just got to make sure you complete the charge. You're flying over and you panic, right? And you just ploop it out on your target. It is not going to die. I don't know how that guy died. It's probably because I had some damage on him earlier, but it's important to always get to the full charge. Now, I know you're hearing the damage in your headphones or your speakers right now, and that's just because the fire is still going to sit in that residual area until it finishes burning out. This could be okay to zone people out. I've had several kills before where maybe there's a guy getting ready to come up the stairs, and I just, I ploop that out to make him change his mind, and then I can take shots down below. Or if I do take shots and I hit him and he panics and runs through the staircase, he's going to take a little bit of extra damage from the residual flames on top. But overall, this is a top tier limb, highly recommended, and you got to get a lot of practice with it, right? To get to a level where you're flying in the game and you can just swoop up and hit somebody is going to take some time. You'll notice I missed that training dummy, and people are going to be moving a lot more than you expect. So that's pretty much the Phosphor. If you want to see players who are really good at this, I'm going to recommend maybe somebody like Gunny Gopher or Public Sorrow from Team Merciless. Those are players who like to use that limb quite frequently, and they are nasty at it. I've got some clips of myself, hitting people a mile away. But just remember, right? That noise right there is 100% charge. And from there, you want to aim at your target. There's really no aim assist or something that's going to help you hit the target. So when you see this thing lit up red, try and just line it up as best as you can, right? And you could be anywhere across the map. This guy's pretty far. Let it go. It's the target. And anytime you hear those words, public humiliation mode activated, you know you just got yourself a free kill. Check out the Phosphor, y'all. It's one of my fan favorites. All right, let's talk about trip mines, which have been nerfed. Back in the day, you used to be able to do this. Zip, 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 run up to your target, boom. But it bounces off of them. Where did my mine go? Well, it bounced off of them. And to give you a better visual of what that actually looks like, the trip mines no longer stick to your target. So remember that. The best thing to do with these things is now what you've always been doing before the buff came. Put these at the bottom of ropes. Put these at the top of ropes, right? Let's pretend you're going up a crane. Think about where you land. If I come up the rope, my guy landed right here. So, trip mine maybe right here, right? So the lasers pointed to that direction. Or if you want, right, we could put it directly where I had landed. So now if I had come up that rope, whoop, bam, I'm going to get blown to smithereens. And remember that one trip mine does not get you a kill. So whenever you're placing these on a high rope, for example, you need to have at least 2 of these down. You could put 2 here if you want, or you could do what I did, put 1 down on the bottom and put 1 up on the original high point. If you want to get more creative with these, one of the things that I recommend doing is jumping off the rope, right? You could hop off the rope and stick it to the wall. So hop off, stick it to the wall. And now when someone goes up that rope, boom, boom, they're going to take 2 explosions. The only problem with this is that a lot of times people will be able to spot the lower position mines, and they're just going to use their leapers or their Slamfist to avoid that. And especially now that you can dolphin dive upward to get more height, it's very unlikely that this is going to have as much value. I still think bottom of the rope, maybe you can hide it in a hard to see spot like these boxes here. There's a lot of people who like to stick them in the bushes. You could stick it here where it's not going to be quite as noticeable, right? And then when they go up, you have better opportunities at getting that advantage. And that's honestly going to pretty much wrap it up when it comes to trip mines. I mean, you can't throw, you used to be able to throw these like Kobe Bryant and see if you could get a stick on a human being or just throw it on them directly. But the devs heard our cries and calls and have removed that from the game. And I got something for you folks out there who keep saying this never needed to happen. Phosphor. Phosphor is already the equivalent in terms of what you can do, and it's a much faster fire rate. Why do this, which takes 1,000 years, when you can just go zzz and stick it straight to your target, no questions asked. We didn't need 2 limbs that did the same thing. And to be honest with you, running up to a target and doing that is not skill based. You needed to be able to hit your target with some type of skill gap, and Phosphor has created that with its charge effect. With as quick as I shot that, it would have been a 60% charge on the Phos and would not have killed the target. So I think it's fair that you are allowed to just stick the dummy with the trip mine and instantly get a kill when Phos wasn't able to do the same thing. So that's pretty much it when it comes to trip mines. I don't got much more to say. Let's do a boogie for the fact that this thing has finally gotten nerfed. All right, let's see what other limbs that we got in the stash. We got a Ripper. Talk about the Ripper. All right, so the Ripper is still a fan favorite limb. It got a buff, it got a nerf, it got a nerf, and then it got another nerf because the actual nerf before that was more so a buff, but it is still an extremely powerful limb. Now, one thing you're going to notice is if I'm not dead straight on my target, I'm going to miss. So you need to make sure that when you're using this limb, you are feeling extremely accurate and you're confident that you're going to hit your target. If you're going to be zipping all around the map, running all over the place, you need to make sure you can hit that target, right? Straight as an arrow. Line it up in front of you and light their ass up. Now, one thing you're going to notice, it's no longer a one-hit kill limb, but it's pretty damn close. Look how many shots it takes. That's it. So, rip your opponent and finish up, right? Clean it up every opportunity that you get, but don't expect this thing to be the one-hit wonder that it used to be, right? It's not going to always give you that much damage as well. So in this situation, I came from the side instead of going head on with my target. And what that's going to do instead is remove the limb. If you come from the side almost every single time, right? I'll come from the side on this guy. You are going to get a limb every single time. So that's one way. If you want to guarantee you can turn the fight in your favor and take a limb, that's a great way to do it. But if you hit them dead on, you are going to get a lot of shield damage and potentially kill the target. Right? I was a little too far to the side, so we ended up taking a limb anyways on that specific target. But those are the different ways you can use that limb and just, you know, bring high value out of it. One thing you could also do is go low with it. And if you go low with it, you have high odds of actually ripping the legs off of your target. Unfortunately, the trading dummies do not support that function, but it's important for you to know, right? If I come from the sides, I'm getting arms. If I come from the lower part, I'm likely going to get legs. Any other section of the body is going to get you some sort of damage. Now, this, for some reason, just bugged out, but that's how you use Ripper, ladies and gents. Very, very skilled limb nowadays. Whereas before, it was like a giant AoE attack. Now, it's a much more, you know, accurate limb. You got to be on your target in order to get something out of it. You're always going to get something, right? And I think that's what makes it a valuable limb, right? You get damage and something's getting chopped off along with it. If you want to be specific at what you're chopping, though, you need to aim towards that side. If I aim to the left, I'm getting a left arm. If I aim to the right diagonally, I'm going to get a right arm, right? And we can get that chop going. Now, we already lost a limb on this target, so it's not going to allow me to rip another limb. But if you're running double Ripper, you can go left, go right, and turn your character into a chicken nugget. Allows you to sauce them up a little bit afterwards. Hopefully, Ripper treats you well. I still think it's an A tier limb. It's just not S tier anymore. And there are still a lot of players who are going to be using this. Consider mixing up your limb variety amongst your teammates. If you're stacking really well together, which I know a lot of players try and frown upon, but that's a personal problem. Good teams stack. You're going to watch a lot of top skilled players split apart from each other and go hunt down the lobby. But guess what? The players who stick together like glue win the most games. You've ever seen teams like Star or teams like Cutthroat Assassins? They're not 6, 7 KD players, but they average 50, 60, 70% win ratios because they always stick together. One of them has a Recon, one of them has a Ripper, one of them has a Paralyzer, one of them has a Slamfist. And this variety in the limbs is going to help you create more plays, just create more variety, and it just makes the game that much funner. Remember, this game is all about the limbs. Let's quickly go back to make sure we didn't leave anything out. We got Ghosts, so I'll quickly talk about that. And then we'll talk about skunkpaw. And I think we left out the Slugger. So we'll talk about that and wrap things up. So quickly going to those last two limbs. They're kind of mediocre. I don't recommend them, to be quite honest with you. These are kind of limbs where, like, if you find them on the ground, sure, take it. But they aren't going to be huge. So when it comes to something like the Slugger, and there's going to be a whole bunch of mobility, what I always recommend, let's say, you know, I'm taking a fight right here. This guy's starting to win, right? Throw that Slugger down behind you, and when he comes up that rope to try and pursue the target, beam him down to the floor. It's really hard to get out of this stuff. Now, if they do have Roadrunners, this does counter the Slugger. And let's be honest, everybody's going to be running Roadrunners, which is why the limb is kind of lackluster right now. I do think the devs need to buff it and make it so that way Roadrunners do not stand a chance. Just, it is what it is. Something else that you can do similar to Slugger is use skunkpaw, so turn around, put that gas down, turn around, and now that area, not only have you obscured the vision there behind you, but anybody who runs through it's going to be taking some damage. So this can kind of be used as, in a weird way, you can kind of use it as like a data limb, right? You won't be able to see the target, but you know the target is there, somewhere within the vicinity of that gas. If you see a fight over in the yonder, right? This guy right here, he's fighting somebody. You're popping shots at him. You're like, dang it, man, I'm about to run out of ammo. I'm not going to be able to get it, right? Throw a skunkpaw over there, right? And disrupt that fight and see what you can get out of it. It's kind of like the Buzz Killer. It's a great third-party tool. Squeeze what you can out of it. But it's not going to be one of those insane limbs that is used 24/7 all the time. Use it like a smoke grenade. Use it as an area to zone people out of the area. Same thing with Slugger, right? You see a fight going on, it's in the distance. You want to be able to push that fight. You could Slugger and now make your way over there. And that target might still be slugged up, allowing you to fly over there, clean up the target, and get the hell out of Dodge. And outside of that, there's really not too much use for those two particular limbs. So I think that pretty much wraps up what we would. We did leave out the Bounce Bomber, and that's because this one's a little bit of a game changer. And I say that because Trip Mine's getting nerfed. Now, what used to happen before is you would shoot one of these grenades out, and keep in mind, this needs to be tapped a second time. If you just tap it once, nothing. Until I blow it up again. So what a lot of people are probably going to be doing now, since Trip Mines have been nerfed, is shoot out the ball, suck them in, Phosphor. And now we can blow up the target, right? Shoot it out, blow it up, Phosphor. Target's dead. So that is going to be the new Bounce Bomber combo. You still can spam the limbs like you used to before. So let me just reselect it real quick to see if we can reset the... All right, we're going to reset. So one thing you can do, launch, blow it up, launch, blow it up, launch, blow it up, right? And kill the target. This is still really effective. One thing you need to consider is with the recent patch that when you throw your balls on someone's face, it is dead center of the explosion, right? So if I throw this out, dead center, right? If it's on the side or edge, you are not going to be able to get that tight pull, and they will be able to leaper or roadrunner out of it. But 9 times out of 10, if you catch them either without legs or you can hit them center mass, you are going to suck them in and do a lot of damage. So it's really important to have something like Phosphor or even Ripper, right? There are people, if you're running Roadrunners, right? You can use it to pull them in, Roadrunner your way over there, and slash. Now, let me show you something. One of the number one things I see people doing with this limb, because they're just new to it and don't know how to use it, is they do this.
All armor plates destroyed. Vital signs improving.
Simply put, you are way too close. Give that thing some travel time, and then detonate with the second
Health metric
use.
increasing.
Okay? Don't try and use it smack dab in front of you. Otherwise, you're going to hurt yourself, right? You're going to suck yourself in, and you are going to hurt yourself. Don't be afraid to bounce it off of walls. That's something I don't see people try and do enough, right? If I have a guy, let's see if I can get, like in this room, right? I can bounce it off of that wall and break his limb. So it's a really great limb whenever you're chasing somebody to try and just get some of that initial damage out. It's great as an opener to follow up with Phosphor. Those are some of the just different methods that I would recommend you using with this particular limb. Still an A+ limb. It's not S tier anymore, thank God, but it's still a really, really, really good limb. And I hope just kind of giving you some examples of how to use that here on the training dummies will help you get a little bit more action there in Teardrop. Now, with that being said, let me just quickly just comb through and see if we left anything out. Hammerheads, Paralyzer, Roadrunner, Hookshot, Kinetic Shield, Ripper, Javelina, Slugger, Phosphor Fury, Trip Mine, Buzzkiller, Ghost is our last and final limb. This one's going to be real short, ladies and gents. So, remember what I said about Recon. Paralyzer is the best counter. Now, when they fix Ghost, Ghost will be your number 2 option as a counter to Recon and Recon only. Paralyzer shows ghosted individuals, and that's why it's one of my favorite limbs, because a lot of people do like to use this, sometimes double up on it. Now, the problem with Ghost right now is if we use it, my head is still going to be visible. And this is why the limb is currently not a recommendation. But when the devs manage to fix the floating head problem, it is going to be a very viable limb. And again, you're going to use it to get yourself off of Recon. But Paralyzer will still be able to find you regardless if you're ghosted or not. And that's really it. There's not much else I have to explain when it comes to Ghost right now. And again, I'm working on part 2 as we speak to get you all some more footage on what do these limbs look like in real time, in the moment, with live, actual players. But I hope this video has helped you out in some way, shape, or form, just to get a feel for things. What are people thinking about while they're using them? How are people moving about the map with mobility limbs like Slamfist and Hookshot? How are people getting higher in the air with their overall jetpack maneuverability? How are people navigating the map with Roadrunners for so long without using up or burning up all of their usage? These are the things I've covered in today's video, along with just some limb recommendations and how to use those particular limbs in specific situations. Stay tuned until next time when part 2 comes out and we really show you how to bring everything to life in Teardrop. Till next time, folks. Peace, love, and happiness. Y'all be easy.